Hey everyone, welcome to another video of the Nameless Thing. So today we're taking a look at the Absolute Carnage storyline from 2019. Guys, this is one of my most favorite storylines from Marvel. And following there was King in Black series, which is again another brilliantly written series from Marvel. And this Absolute Carnage storyline, it reminds me a bit of the Maximum Carnage storylines because again it branched out into many different titles. You had going into the Venom title, the Spider-Man title, the Miles Morales title. So it was a very detailed story and it was really fun and engaging throughout. So I had to collect this whole series. So guys, barring issue 3 that you see over here, everything else I got from Worthing Comics, and you can see that I have a few variant covers. They're not all the regular covers, but I'm happy with what I have because like I said, I just love this storyline so much, and it gives me a bit of that PS5 Spider-Man 2 storyline kind of vibes about how there is a symbiote breakthrough throughout the whole city with Carnage trying to bring back Null, and it's a really interesting storyline, and we'll go through each issue one by one. Before we get further into this video, be sure to hit the like button and share this with your friends. You can subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more such videos, guys. Starting off with the shoe and a hat on the bag and the board, it's a beautiful Ryan Stegman artwork, and I think the thing that I love about this issue is just look at how thick it is here. There's just a whole lot of pages because there's a lot of content in the first issue, and even in the last issue it has a lot of pages, so you're definitely getting your money's worth in this. I mean, it is a tad bit more expensive. As you can see here, it says $7.99, and usually the average comic is like $4.99 or $5.99, but I'd still say this is really worth it because you get a lot going on in this one issue, guys. So it has here chapter 1, the Bleeding King. So this gives you a small backup about Null. So basically this is from Venom 3, where we were first introduced to Null, who is the god of the abyss, and in that he tried to regain the connection with Venom via that dragon that he controls from the Mind Hive, because right now he's still asleep on Clintar, trapped by all his symbiote offsprings, but had he connected successfully then he would have reawoken. But in that attempt to stop him back then, Venom the symbiote dies and Eddie Brock is now left alone. And a few issues after that, he finds out that he has a son named Dylan Brock, and he keeps the identity of him being the father to Dylan a secret, and he leads him to believe that actually Eddie is like an elder brother to him because he's not yet ready to deal with it. And you have a bit of the history going about how the symbiotes existed long before Earth, and there's a piece of their themselves left in each of the DNA of the hosts that they bond with. So that's essentially the codex. So you have enough pieces of the codex, and then you can reconnect to Null, who is sleeping in Clintar right now. So that was the recap that Eddie was giving to his son Dylan, who again is still assuming that Eddie is his elder brother. And now Eddie knows that Venom is dead, and now that Null has a way to reassemble the codexes, he is trying to do it through Cletus Cassidy's symbiote, which is Carnage. And you can see over here that he's on the run, and Venom, who was thought to be dead, suddenly reappears. You have Cletus Cassidy over here, and then you have Venom here showing up to help them. I don't know how Venom comes back, but he does. I mean, you guys can let me know in the comments if I've missed something, but Venom does come back to protect Eddie and Dylan. And seeing that this nullified Carnage is much stronger than that dragon host that they fought before. As you can see here, he just gives one backlash and sends Venom flying away. And Venom is telling Eddie that no, this guy is too strong, much stronger than you can possibly imagine, because he's definitely, while he is already stronger than Venom, he also has the forces of Null in him. And so they temporarily stun him to just get away, just a small distraction, trying to buy time. Eddie, knowing that he cannot do this alone, decides to go looking for help, and they land up at the doorsteps of the one and only Peter Parker Spider-Man. This is a beautiful backshot of Spider-Man. I just love this artwork. It's so cool. You have the mask over here. This is really good. Just imagine if this was the opening scene of Brand New Day. Got an MCOC ad over here. Got chapter 2, the Godson, and you can see the bleeding is slowly increasing, becoming red over here. So Eddie now giving a short brief or a flash, just a summary of everything that's happening to Spider-Man, and they start discussing, and he tells Peter that actually Dylan is his son and that he's not yet revealed his own identity to Dylan, and Peter's trying to help Eddie say that you have to let him know who he really is. And that's when they see the news that they are at the graveyard of Eddie Brock's late wife Annie, and since she also was a host, they can get a piece of the codex from there. And knowing that they cannot let Cletus let get all the codexes and then reawaken Null, he and Spidey now have to race and stop him from doing so. Oh, nice flip cover over here. Another one over here. And so seeing that they need help, they contact the maker, which is like an evil Reed Richards, and he comes up with a device that essentially eliminates the codex that's there in the host's DNA. And he has to build this, like he's made a theory and he has to test it, and they don't want to test it on either of themselves or on Dylan, so they decide to go for the next host that they could probably think of, which is Norman Osborn. So for those of you who don't know, in Amazing Spider-Man 800 and just 2 issues before that, Norman Osborn wanted to again defeat Spider-Man and did a grand scheme where he bonded with the Carnage Symbiote, becoming Red Goblin. But by the end of that whole event, he loses his psyche, and then Norman Osborn thinks that he's Cletus Cassidy. But since the symbiote had already bonded with Norman Osborn in that storyline, he's pretty much a good host that they can try it on, which is why they go to Ravencroft prison to break Norman out from there and test the machine on him. But they are not the only ones who had that idea, because just like these two people, even the Carnage symbiote decided to show up and take Norman Osborn. Over here, Cletus Cassidy is walking over there, and he's just bonding all the other prisoners with a piece of the symbiote, making them a part of his army. Yeah, you can see the Carnage horde over here, or the nullified Carnage horde over here. And as they're struggling to fight, because they try to protect Norman, they don't want to kill Norman, but they just want to get rid of the codex traces from Norman, and so they try to protect him from Carnage. It's a pretty cool shot over here. Actually, the thing about this comic, the whole setup is in black, red, and orangish. And yeah, you have a creepy Norman Osborn. I mean, how does this look like Norman Osborn? This looks pretty much like Cletus Cassidy himself. So Spider-Man tries to break through the wall, but that's like thick concrete. But then Carnage gets to Norman Osborn, and while they think he's going to kill Norman Osborn, he doesn't. Instead, he bonds him and makes him like another mini Carnage. And throughout all these 5 issues, you'll see there's like these files over here, recording of sessions that they had with Cletus Cassidy. It's there in all 5 issues. We've got issue 2 here, which is a third printing, and this is also a variant cover. As you can see, they're escaping from the prison with Venom using his wings, saving Spider-Man. And I think with this artwork, they could have tried recreating the Amazing Fantasy 15 homaging with Venom using his wings and carrying Spidey like that. But either way, it's pretty cool. Being a small recap, now Norman Osborn is also bonded again with the symbiote, becoming like a mini Carnage. You have the Null Carnage, or like the God Carnage that Null has bonded with, and who's like extremely stronger than your average Carnage symbiote. You see Venom holding on to Spider-Man as they try escaping from there. Meanwhile, Carnage, or Cletus Cassidy Carnage, instructs his horde to find all the other hosts that the symbiote had bonded with since they came to Earth, and to get all the remaining pieces of the codex so that they can reawaken Null. So Eddie and Peter are like totally just flabbergasted, exhausted. They have zero ideas on what to do, because they realize that Carnage has just become too strong with his horde, and now letting Norman Osborn also, who thinks he's Cletus Cassidy, have his own symbiotes. And you essentially have 2 Carnages now. You have a whole horde of nullified Carnage hordes that are just going across the city. And Peter tells you this is not the time to give up, so he decides to call in the rest of the Avengers, which includes the heroes like the Thing, Captain America, Wolverine, Iron Man, the Fantastic Four, and so on. Eddie at this point is still skeptical, because he is still considered to be a fugitive, but then he knows that he needs their help. And meanwhile, he's also talking with the Thinker to see, not the Thinker, sorry, the Maker, to see if he's had any other further developments and what to do. And meanwhile, as you can see here, Carnage has made his own layer over here, which is kind of like a mini hive mind, so that he can feel all the other symbiotes everywhere else, so that he can control them, use them as his own host, which is pretty much how Null used to communicate himself all across the galaxy before he was exiled into the prison on Clintar. Yeah, and as you can see over here, he can just connect with every one of his symbiote hordes regardless of where they are on Earth, and use them to gain the remaining pieces of the codex. And you see even their Miles is struggling to fight off against them. Even Gargian is here, who's basically Scorpion. But in this process, Scorpio loses his legs, and well, Miles also loses it, and he becomes part of the horde, which is what we see over here. Yep, and rip to Miles, because we get Carnage Miles Morales. Moving on to issue 3, which is another variant cover, we see Miles Morales as the Absolute Carnage that's just taken over by the Carnage symbiote on the cover here. And this issue is also pretty important because there's a major first appearance in this issue. And you see Carnage also taking over Miles Morales and you see Miles Morales taken over by the Carnage symbiote, who's also now part of the horde fighting Venom. And Venom, the symbiote, is telling Eddie Brock that now he has to resort to murder and kill Cletus Cassidy the moment he gets such an advantage, because he cannot leave it to chance. Whereas Eddie is having a moral conflict of whether he should kill or should not kill, and the Venom symbiote is saying that no, you cannot take that chance because the risk in this situation is too high, and we cannot let Null get the chance of being reawakened and then fighting off against the entire universe. And Eddie saves Scorpio, who is now legless, and comes back to the base, which is where Spidey assembles the rest of the heroes, Captain America, Wolverine, and the Thing. And he also meets Bruce Banner, who is not Hulk at the moment. And so as the machine is ready to extract all the codexes, they see that Cletus Cassidy, disguised as Eddie Brock, made his way into the base. And conveniently, this is easy for Cletus Cassidy because all the codex pieces that he needed now, they're all just stored from that machine over there, so he doesn't have to go hunting through the city for it now. It's all right there for him to take. He just needs to bond with it, so he summons the rest of his horde over there. And Venom decides that okay, I can't rely on Eddie for killing this guy, so I'm just going to move on to the next strongest thing that's available over here. And ta-da, he bonds in the main 616 universe for the first time with Bruce Banner, resulting in something that even Carnage feels is quite formidably powerful enough for him. This is like the God Carnage symbiote, and if he feels that something is powerful, I think you guys can guess. We have Venom Hulk for the very first time in this universe. And there's also just a beautiful back cover of the Endgame. Like, man, I can't believe 2019, it's been 6-7 years now already. Good times. We want to issue number 4. Now we have Venom, who is bonded with Bruce Banner, and we have Venom Hulk finally in the main storyline, who is fighting Carnage, as you can see over here. This looks pretty cool. And now Eddie, who is left without any symbiote but still has to protect his son, and who also has to protect the box, the codex, from the rest of the horde so that they don't bond with it. He borrows Captain America's shield and a few other weapons that are there and decides to fight however best he can. And while Hulk, or Venom Hulk, puts on a good fight, the God Carnage is he's pretty strong, so he easily infects Bruce's mind, or Hulk's mind, and then drains him back into Bruce Banner, as we see over here. And Miles is able to break free by using his Venom Taser, or what was it called? Venom Blast powers. Yeah, Venom Blast. Oh shit. And as you can see here, Carnage rips off the Venom symbiote and bonds to him, and we get an even more freakishly powerful God Carnage, or Null Carnage, or I don't know what he's called at this point, but yeah, you can see the power up that he's got over here. And so, to even the playing field, Eddie Brock does something that's unthinkable. He breaks open that canister that has all the remaining pieces of the Codex and becomes a new symbiote. Hey, pretty cool cover. Yeah, and he bonds with the remaining symbiotes. These are symbiotes that have bonded with Captain America, Wolverine, and all the other heroes in the past that the symbiotes had bonded with. Not particularly Venom, just any symbiote. So this is all the other symbiotes that had bonded with the human and superhero host before, and you have this God Carnage here that has Venom and the other symbiote codexes. And finally, we've made it to the last issue, guys. This is issue number 5, and again, this is a variant cover, and I had the option of getting the regular cover, but I just love this one so much because, as you can see here, it has Codex variant, and this scene just reminds me of Web of Shadows, the ultimate boss battle where Spidey fought off against that 5-headed Venom monstrosity on the Shield helicarrier. So this gives me that vibes, and that's pretty much how I felt throughout this whole story. It really reminded me of Web of Shadows, which is my all-time favorite Spider-Man game. I know Spider-Man PS5 and the Spider-Man 2 PS5s are pretty good, obviously, because of the new developments when it comes to gaming, but for the time that it came out, Web of Shadows is insanely amazing, and I still enjoy it today whenever I play it, guys. It's really good. If you haven't tried it, I definitely recommend you play that game. So this is a little flashback to the first time Cletus met Eddie Brock, and this look of Eddie Brock is so accurate to how he was drawn in the late 80s to what he is now. I don't know where he got his looks changed, but hey, whatever works and flows with the type. So you have Eddie with the remaining symbiotes, an amalgamation of all the symbiotes left together, and now you have this God Courage again who's bonded with all the other symbiotes, and now he's making way to Eddie Brock's son Dylan, who has the final piece of the Codex left within him. And all the other heroes are really struggling to fight, but they're not able to put that much of a friend. No matter how many reinforcements they get, they are barely slowing down Carnage and his horde. And then Dylan here also learns that he has certain abilities, some abilities like Null himself. While not as strong as Null, he does have some abilities like Null. And so Carnage now reveals his plan, or Cletus reveals his plan, that they both have enough pieces of the Codex. So now what happens is, if Cletus kills Dylan, that is Eddie's son, then he gets the final pieces and reawakens Null. But if Eddie kills Cletus, then the symbiote that all Cletus had bonded with so far till now, that bonds with Eddie, and then he completes the circle and reawakens Null. So either way, whatever happens, Null reawakens. The only difference is whether Eddie can now save his son or not. And so Eddie does the ultimate thing of killing Cletus and bonds with the remaining symbiotes, effectively reawakening Null, as we see over here, which is what Venom is now warning him about. And Null has reawoken, and all the other symbiote hordes are now useless, because now that he's reawoken, he is now coming for Earth and every other inch of light that has invaded his dark kingdom. But in the meantime, for the small battle, he did stop Cletus and save the remaining people of Earth and save his son. But there is a big war that is now coming, and in this moment, Dylan heard that Eddie called him his son, and now he also knows the truth that Eddie is his father, concluding Absolute Carnage. So that was the video, guys, and as you can see, I just added another issue, which was Absolute Carnage versus Deadpool Part 3, the final issue in that storyline, because Deadpool had bonded with 4 different symbiotes, and he's the only one who's done that. So he had like a mega chunk of the Codex, and this happened somewhere between Absolute Carnage issue 2 and issue 3, and it was a pretty fun storyline because Deadpool is the only one who's crazier than Cletus Cassidy, and that was just a fun storyline in the side. And effectively, this is one of those stories where even though it looks like they won a battle, they lost the war, because even though Eddie saved his son ultimately and stopped Cletus in this, Null has reawoken. And let me tell you guys that he's like Omega universal level threat, and in the next series that I do, which will be a King in Black series, I'll tell you in detail about how strong Null is, and he was literally terrifying. Even the entire force of Earth was not enough to stop him. It literally took the force of light to come down and stop him, and that story is really good. It's one of the best. This and King in Black is one of the best storylines that Marvel has written in recent times, and I would definitely recommend that you guys check out the storyline. Let me know your thoughts about the series in the comments below, and I will catch you guys next time.